This one is focuses on the value of inclusive leadership in diverse teams. And so there's a number of past studies that have examined kind of the importance of inclusion initiatives among diverse work environments, but the focus on inclusive leadership has been a little bit more scarce. And so this research study asked, to what extent does inclusive leadership moderate the relationship between team diversity and inclusive work climate? And the way that this research was conducted was there are these participants who worked within teams within the Dutch central and local governments that were recruited, and there are a total of 45 teams with 293 team members that were given a survey that measured team ethnic cultural diversity, inclusive climate, inclusive leadership, and other several control variables. And so what they found with this is that the greater team ethnic cultural diversity that was present led to lower team inclusiveness, which is supported by past literature on social categorization. And social categorization kind of suggests that the greater team diversity results in greater intergroup bias, which impedes the participation and therefore inclusion of all members. But when they kind of filtered in this factor of inclusive leadership, they found that inclusive leadership positively moderates the relationship between team diversity and inclusive work climate. And this suggests that the more team leaders exhibit inclusive leadership behavior, the better they can cultivate an inclusive climate in the workplace where diverse team members feel their needs of belongingness and uniqueness are satisfied. And that's kind of how they, based on a past study, define what makes up inclusion in the workplace is the ability to satisfy those needs of belongingness and uniqueness simultaneously. And in terms of building up a inclusive work climate, the past research also indicates that on this team level, the inclusive climate, which is cultivated by this inclusive leader, is the normalization of being open to differences and valuing them, and then also including those differences in decision-making processes. And so that's kind of those kind of satisfy those needs of belongingness and uniqueness, and are what past studies would say make up an inclusive climate in the workplace. And so some key takeaways that we can keep in mind for consultants and everyone is for consultants that inclusive behavior does not always come natural to leaders, but is vitally important, as shown by this study, as we saw that greater diversity in a lot of cases can create more conflict and without inclusion can create more conflict because you have a lot of competing ideas, differences, experiences. So it's important to spend time with clients, encouraging them to think about the ways in which they could be more inclusive leaders in the workplace, and within a coaching context, I think could be really helpful. And then for everyone, the inclusion of employees is an important standard that leaders should live by if they want a more inclusive climate with less workplace conflict. And if you are finding that your team is struggling to cultivate this inclusive climate, we offer a diversity inclusion training, which is linked to the actual study called Moving from Identity to Humanity, that helps create an environment where all voices matter, and creates that inclusive climate. And so I think this is a pretty, straightforward study on the importance of inclusion in the workplace, and kind of validates a lot of the work that we try to do in terms of creating a conflict positive and inclusive kind of workplace.
I like that little plug there, Noah. Yeah, this is speaks to the idea that culture shift and culture is really set by leaders, and it trickles down, and it needs to be, I think it does happen bottom up and top down, but I think really top down is an important